Hello everyone, my name is Bhagwat Singh and in this video I will be telling you about sentence rearrangement or parajumbles. Well, before I'll start to tell you about what kind of questions are asked in the sentence rearrangement mains exams, I'll let you know about what kind of questions are sentence rearrangement, how questions are made and how questions are asked to us in sentence rearrangement. Well, I'll tell you about sentence rearrangement. Sentence rearrangement is usually a set of 6 to 7 sentences in which we have to arrange all those unarranged sentences into a manner so that if we read them together, we get a message. For example, if I'll start to you about telling a story, so if I start telling you a story, what I would need is I would need to tell you the beginning, the characters, and then what happens, the middle things, and then at the end I would like to tell you about the conclusions, and that's all about this statement and this sentence rearrangements. The sentence, there will be a set of sentences and we will have to arrange those sentences into a format so that the person who would read them together will understand how are the sentences arranged. He will get the confirmed message out of it. So this is what we call as sentence rearrangement. Well, these are the notes that I have made for sentence rearrangement. Well, I'm using this one note for making this video. So before I'll just read this out, what is written in this first line. The sentence rearrangement is a set of about 6 to 7 sentences which we have to arrange to form a meaningful and coherent paragraph. That's what I told you over just now, right? Okay, so here what more we can do. Before I tell you about how to attempt the mains exams, I would just like to tell you about what kind of basic questions are asked to us, as in the prelims exams the time is less, so what kind of questions are asked in the prelims exams. So to start with, this is the type 1, and in this type 1 usually what we have is we are given 6 to 7 sentences, and out of these 6 to 7 sentences we will have to arrange those sentences into a manner. Okay, so here I have written some tricks for arranging these sentences. As I've told you that there are three parts always for a sentence, for a paragraph, and these are beginning, main part, and the conclusion. Because every part, if we say about any part, for example, if I'm telling you a story, if I'm telling you an economical part, if I'm telling you a business part, an article, whichever things I will be telling you, what important would be for us is just to make a story in such a manner that the person who would be reading that at the beginning, at the middle, at the conclusion, he would be guessing this all, that this is the manner of writing. Okay, so any sentence that we write, any paragraph that we write, we have these three things in common. So before we do this anything, I will just like to know like, how are things, how can we arrange these sentences into a simple manner. So before this, the first step that I would let you know is to arrange the first and the last sentences. The first and last sentences are one of the easiest sentences because these are easiest for us to find when we have to make the rearrangement, as the jumbled sentences will be in an order such that we will have to put, if we'll start try to make this rearrangement, we will really need like to know the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, and sixth one. So what are the easy ones is number one, the first sentence, and number two, the last sentence. These are the things that are really very useful in doing these questions. Well, I'll tell you about how can we do. I've written these three steps for making this for finding the first step in a rearrangement. So all these three things are the number first step. What we have to do is number one, if we are doing a parajumble, what we will be needing to see in the first sentence is that the first sentence will have a noun. If I tell you about a noun is a noun is the name of something, and a noun when repeated is written as pronoun. So instead of a noun, a pronoun is written. So for example, if I'm telling you, if I'll be telling you a story of Rama, okay. So in this story, I will be telling you about Ram is a boy. Now after this, the next sentences I won't use the name Ram. I will be using the word he. That is the thing. So what do we need to know here is that before we start doing any sentence rearrangement questions, the first question always has a noun. So what we need to look for correct sentence, the first sentence is the noun. We need to look, for example, if we will be given 6 sentences, and what we will be needed to do this to find the correct to the first sentence, what we will needed to do is the find the noun. There will be many sentences where the pronouns will be used for subjects. Those sentences cannot be the first sentences. The first sentences will always have a subject which has a noun, subject which is a noun. Okay, so this is the, for example, if I'm having two sentences out of which in a paragraph, in a sentence rearrangement question, where these two sentences have subjects of noun, so these two may be the first sentences. Okay, so now what next we can do is we have to eliminate, as I've told you that pronouns cannot be the first sentences. So what we have to see, what we have to look into the 7 sentences that we just now made, that we will be reading, that the pronoun, the place where pronouns will be a subject, they cannot be the first sentence. So this is what we have done. The first is find and select sentences which have a noun used for subject in them, because if a noun is used in subject, it can be the first sentence. And second thing that we have to eliminate is eliminate sentences where the subject is a pronoun. It cannot be the first sentence, right? Because a pronoun always comes after a noun. That's the reason. Okay, now the third thing that is very important and that helps us in guessing the first sentence and the third part is eliminate sentences which start with a conjunction. A conjunction, what it does is, a conjunction is always used to join two sentences or two words or two phrases. So it's always used to conjoin them. So what happens is a conjunction is usually used in the middle of two sentences or two words. For example, if you're using this and is always used in the middle of two things, two sentences or nouns. Okay, if I'm using this but is also but cannot be the starting and cannot be the starting of a sentence. So this, the sentences which have conjunctions in the beginning cannot be the first sentences. Okay, so now moving to the next part. Now we have, using these three ways, we can easily find which of the followings out of which of the sentences out of 6 sentences is the first one. Okay, now since we have done this, now I will be reading about what the second step, and that will be how to find the last sentence. That's the, like, maybe the sixth or maybe the seventh. Okay, how to find those? Well, if I tell you, I just now told you before, just before I told you about that, a sentence, a paragraph always ends in a conclusion. The end part always gives you a conclusion. So what it does is, here simply what we have to look for, we have to look for the words like finally, lastly, thus, therefore, ultimately, hence, etc. Because these words will be finally giving the results of the paragraph. So if there are some sentences starting with these words may be our conclusions. So these may be our last part. Okay. Okay, so now if we want to find the middle sentences, how can we find the middle sentences? Now if I'll try to tell you about how, since we have found this first and the last part, we have learned about how to find the first and the last part. Now the missing part is how to find the remaining sentences, right? The middle part, second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth, right? We have to find them, how to find those. So what important for us is, since we have found this first, and what we have more found is we have found the last also. Now for example, if I'm just making a question which has like 6 sentences, and the first and the last are known to us. Okay, so now how many are remaining? There are 4 sentences which are remaining, and we also know that a question of that sentence will be having 5 options. So there will be, out of these 5 questions where we will be asked to check about the which of the sentences is the third, fourth, first, second. In such kind of sentences, there will be a question in which first and last, these both will be given, and we will have to find the second, third, fourth or fifth. So in that way, 2 options automatically got eliminated because these are the first and the last. That's what we have just now found. Okay, and out of these 4, because second, third, fourth and fifth, these 4 options are remaining for us, but now we are left with just 3 options. So now what we can do is, we can simply eliminate the last part. That's what I've written here, that we can simply eliminate the fourth part, the fourth sentence, and now we are remaining with this three sentences. Now still there is a question like how to find the answer of this, how to find the second step. If we are knowing only we have eliminated this three, first, last, and the part which is not in the options, we have found, we have eliminated this, but there are still three options now. How can we find the answer? Now the thing that I would like to tell you is, now we will need to, what we will need to do is we will need to know the ending, we will need to read the sentence, first sentence again. And now after, now up to now we haven't read this, the whole sentence. We have just now done about the beginning things only and the ending things only, we have done this only. But now if we will read about the first sentence, if we will read the first sentence, what we will realize that what is the meaning of that first sentence. And now we will be having a doubt in our minds that what is required after the first sentence. And this only develops, you will get this idea only when you will have a practice of reading. If you will be having a practice of reading, what will happen to you is you will ultimately realize that after this first sentence, what is the next sentence that may be required. And I tell you, most of the sentences, most of the rearrangement questions are asked from usually the Hindu and the newspapers only. So if you have a habit of reading the newspapers daily, what will happen is maybe there is a paragraph that you would have read before. Maybe you would be knowing about the sequence of what may be the next sentence. So this is what I want to tell you. So these are the methods of doing the simple basic questions. Okay, now I'm coming to the next part. The next part is, now since I've given you this question. Okay, so in this question I'll just practice to you like what I have just talked to you. Okay,